In the most rural and remote parts of the southeastern United States lies an endangered and vital ecosystem spanning once across 90 million acres. A landscape shaped by its tall trees and golden grasses. The Longleaf Pine Savannah. This savanna ecosystem is named aptly after the invaluable longleaf pine tree. Today, what once spanned over 90 million acres can only be found in 2% of its original old growth. And what a shame. The biodiversity supported by Longleaf Pine Savannah can be found nowhere else in the world. Wildlife, uniquely adapted for this ecosystem, depends upon it for its existence. Our focus in this project is Drymarchon couperi, the Eastern Indigo Snake. Eastern indigos are not only respected in nature, but by conservationists alike. In fact, the name Drymarchon loosely translates to Emperor of the Forest. It's an intelligent, powerful, and impressive snake that became federally threatened due to the loss of Longleaf Pine Savannah. Join the Caveman Wildlife Crew as we explore the Eastern Indigo Snake and Longleaf Pine Savannas with two incredible conservation organizations working to save not only Longleaf Pine Savannas, but the Eastern Indigo Snake. In January 2022, we found ourselves far from our home in Atlanta. Now we're in Eustis, Florida, on our way to see a snake that I've been dreaming of since I first saw it in a book at 8 years old. Eastern indigo snakes have a status set apart from any other snake in the Southeast. And here I am with my crew 400 miles from home going to see them. It feels unreal. Woo! Alrighty guys, so we're about 4 minutes out from the Orianne Center for Indigo Snake Conservation. I can't believe it. I'm in the car with some of my best friends in the entire world, and we're gonna be able to see Eastern indigo snakes at the only captive breeding program for these snakes in the entire world. This will be my first time ever coming across this magnificent snake and seeing one alive, and I think I can speak for everyone. We're excited, so let's do it. A few turns and a sandy road later, and suddenly, the Orianne Center for Indigo Conservation sign caught all of our gazes. Bro, we made it! Bro, we made it! Yo. We found ourselves in the middle of a beautiful Florida scrubland habitat. Spanish moss hanging from the trees and the greenery still alive. Such a stark difference from a Georgia winter. As we got closer, excitement filled more of the air, but also a bit of nervousness. Here were professionals in their field doing real work to save an amazing animal. We're just young guys with a passion for wildlife and capturing a story. But we're here, and it's time to meet those professionals.
Sandwich. Water.
Are you ready for this, man?
Bro, I'm ready. I'm ready to get bit by some rattlesnakes and like...
We're not getting bitten by rattlesnakes, guys. We are at the Orianne Center for Indigo Conservation with the Central Florida Zoo and Botanical Gardens. Today, we're gonna be taking you guys in on a really amazing in-depth look at the only captive breeding program for the Eastern Indigo Snake, Drymarchon couperi, in the whole entire United States. I cannot express how excited I am. I'm kind of shaking, a little bit nervous, but I can't wait to go in and meet the amazing people behind an amazing conservation initiative. They're doing some really amazing work to save an endangered species. Woo! It's gonna be incredible, guys, I'm telling you. Goodness.
Let's get to work, man.
They're waiting on me, I gotta go.
The Orianne Center for Indigo Conservation is located on beautiful land with an abundance of wildlife around it. There's a real beauty to the land and the work that goes on here. It's truly a hidden gem to this Florida community. I myself feel a little anxious to see my first Eastern Indigo snake. Was this snake what everyone has hyped it up to be? Could it be more? I guess we'll just have to see. Either way, I'm excited.
Out of the car and the equipment ready, it's time to meet the team.
Ready? Sure. Let's go in. Hey,
Hey guys,
Hi.
Dr. James Bogan, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi, Ron McGreevy. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Mackay Bell. Good to meet
Hi,
you.
nice to meet you. Welcome to the Orianne Center. Come on in.
All right.
When you walk into the visitor center, you get a real feel for the history of work that goes on here. Bookshelves filled with significant literature of reptiles around the world. Photos of eastern indigos and some of their natural history fills the walls.
The Eastern Indigo Snake was first described by John Edwards Holbrook, an American zoologist and herpetologist in 1842. For many years, the Drymarchon genus was thought to be monotypic or belonging to one species, with the species Drymarchon couperi finally getting its own distinction as its own species in the 1990s. But now, let's talk to the director of the Orianne Center for Indigo Conservation, Dr. James Bogan.
Hey, nice to meet you, Dr. Bogan.
Nice to meet you too.
Nice. How you doing today?
I'm doing great.
All right. Good to hear. Good to hear. So I just want to get some quick questions with you and everything like that concerning your position here. Let's just start with, how did you get started with your career working with animals?
Well, I got started years ago. I graduated vet school over 25 years ago or so, and worked in private practice for a while. I started working with the Central Florida Zoo 2013. Started working with the Orianne Center for Indigo Conservation, or we'll say OCIC for short, 2014. In 2020, I accepted the director position at the OCIC.
Okay, awesome. And what do you do as the director of the OCIC?
So, as the director, it's the 30,000-foot view of the whole project. You will manage the veterinary care for the snakes, which can vary. Anything from, in the wintertime, often we'll get some skin infections. In the spring, when they're egg laying, we'll run into some dystocia problems or egg binding. Some of those need surgical intervention. We do get wild snakes from the Florida Fish and Wildlife, and some of those come with parasites, and some parasites cannot be treated medically. They need to be treated surgically, so we'll address that as well.
Wow, a lot of work, What would you say makes the Orianne Center for Indigo Conservation so unique?
It's the only place where Eastern indigo snakes are bred in captivity for the sole purpose of repatriating the offspring back into the wild where their numbers are extirpated. So that's pretty cool.
Wow, really cool, really cool. And final question, what's the best part about your job at the OCIC?
I think the best thing is, the conservation aspect. When you're working in a zoo, zoos and zoo veterinarians and zoo directors, it's conservation minded, but many times we're several steps away from the conservation. And most time we're presenting a message, maybe captive breeding for captive populations. But here we have direct impact with wild population. We get to release snakes every year back into the areas where they haven't been seen in decades, and just having that direct impact is just amazing.
Awesome. So you guys do some amazing work here.
Yeah, we love it.
Awesome.
It was time for Dr. Bogan to lead us to the OCIC's impressive outdoor units to introduce us to their social media coordinator, Sydney Sang. With the OCIC being the only Eastern indigo breeding program for helping wild populations, they have to try and replicate natural mating conditions. The OCIC has done something unique and very thoughtful for their captive breeding program indigo snakes. They've given them spacious, naturalistic outdoor units. These units give the snakes a very secure and enriching environment to live and mate in. It's really something that shows just how passionate the OCIC team is for these snakes and their well-being.
Okay guys, let me introduce you to Sydney. She'll show you the outdoor units and what we do with all the critters out there.
Okay, awesome. Hey, nice to meet you, Sydney. I'm Christian.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Mackay.
Bobby.
And Rylan.
Nice to meet you guys. All right, well, come on in. Alrighty guys, so welcome to our outdoor units. These units are what kind of make us special in the way that we take care of our indigos here. So Eastern Indigo Snakes can have home ranges of up to 1,000 acres. So they need a lot of room to roam. And they're also winter breeders, which is a little unusual. And they need a lot of environmental cues to be ready to breed. So like, it's a little chilly outside today, and you know, the sun's gonna go down at 5:30. So you can emulate some of those inside, but it's a lot harder to get. And so we thought we could just put our indigos outside in a safe area where, as you can see, nothing can get in and harm them, but they get all of the environmental cues that they would in the wild. And it's also amazing enrichment. So it keeps their minds really active, it keeps their bodies really active, and it helps us get snakes that are really good at breeding, which is the whole purpose of it. So here we can see one of our indigos. This is number 32, and he's out and about and checking out the outdoor unit. So each of these units is set up in a different way. We like to kind of take stuff out and mix it up so they feel like they're in the wild, like things are changing every day. But you can see there's a lot of little hides and holes. That's because Eastern Indigo Snakes tend to live in gopher tortoise burrows. And gopher tortoise burrows are these huge, long tunnels that can go like 40 feet long, 20 feet down, and they're temperature regulated because they're, you know, so low in the ground. And that's where the indigos spend most of their time. So we've tried to emulate that in these bunkers. So if you can see that little hole in the middle here, I can come let you guys in. So this hole here goes into this cooler, and that cooler, because it's a cooler, is temperature regulated just like a gopher tortoise burrow is. So they still have that experience of going down into underground into a hole and then ending up somewhere warm and safe, just like they would in the wild. Hi, Crabby Boy.
Wow. After Sydney's brilliant enclosure tour, it was time to do what I dreamed of doing since we got the news we'd be able to visit the OCIC. Getting in one-on-one with an Eastern Indigo Snake.
All right. You're welcome to come in here. He's pretty slow moving, especially.
Woo! And guys, check this beautiful snake out right here. Now this is Drymarchon couperi, or an Eastern Indigo Snake. And I'm right here at the OCIC handling what is one of their actual founder snakes. So this beautiful snake came from a collection of wild-caught females that were gravid, and what Auburn University did was they let the females lay their eggs, and then those eggs hatched. And so this indigo has been at this center serving a part of this exceptional breeding program to further the species. This is just incredible. This is my first ever Eastern Indigo Snake. And while this is a non-venomous, harmless species of colubrid, I'm shaking like a leaf because, as you can see, this is a pretty stout-bodied and no doubt the heaviest snake I've ever handled in my entire life. Now, this is the longest snake in North America, and they're just absolutely exceptional. They get the name Indigo Snake because in the sunlight, as you can see, this beautiful jet black coloration has a fascinating iridescence that gives them a purpley bluish sheen. Isn't that just incredible? Look at his face, just gorgeous. The red chin, whoo, nice, long, beautiful tongue. It's just tasting the air, wondering why I decided to wake him up from his nice little nap, but just a beautiful and exceptional snake. Oh my goodness, check out those ventral scales. The coloration, just phenomenal. Now these snakes are big into snake eating, so they'll take down all types of non-venomous snakes, rat snakes, anything that comes their way, they'll take no problem handling. But what's even more incredible is that they have no problem toe-to-toe with pit vipers. So this snake right here would make very short work of a copperhead, timber rattlesnake, pygmy rattlesnake, or even an eastern diamondback. And this incredible snake, despite all this mass and size, is not a constrictor. They actually have strong, strong jaws. I mean, look at that big, boofy head. What he'll do is he'll grab a snake or any other prey that he wants, crush it, mess with it, make it tired, and then when it's weak enough and it can be subdued easily, swallow it down whole. Such a beautiful snake. Ooh, with an impressive size and an amazing appearance, but is absolutely harmless to people. It would be such a shame to lose these from our wildlife and wilderness areas. They're unfortunately been endangered through human persecution and habitat destruction. The Savannah longleaf pine, which they inhabit, is actually very, very, very reduced in its size. About 3% of it's left. Such a shame. I mean, goodness, I would not want anything to happen to an incredible snake this amazing. What an honor. Their name Drymarchon roughly translates to emperors of the forest, and there's no doubt in my mind why they would be earning that name. Such an exceptional snake. Woo! Awesome.
After seeing Christian experience his first ever indigo snake, I was more than ready to experience my own. So we followed Cindy into the center to grab a female indigo they planned to pair with a male in the outdoor enclosure.
The OCIC's herpetarium is where they house many of their indigo snakes that are kept indoors, as well as other reptiles and amphibians they work to conserve. It's a very clean and well-maintained facility where a lot of important data keeping and research takes place. Plenty of indigo snakes here are housed with the utmost attention to their health and well-being. Each snake is given a number that helps identify and keep track of its records.
Alrighty, so this is one of our females, and we're going to take her out and pair her with a male and hopefully make some baby indigos. So what we do is we check their identity to make sure they're the snake that we thought they were, using their pit tags, which are the little microchips in their tails. We'll take her out, we'll introduce her to the male, kind of make sure they're okay, make sure they're not going to hurt each other, because if you remember, these are snake eaters and they can eat each other. So we have to keep an eye out for that. But usually after about like the first 10-15 minutes, if they're not aggressive at all, we'll kind of leave them alone, keep an eye on them from afar, and try to get them to breed. That process can take up to 3 hours, and if they do end up having a successful copulation, they can be locked up for anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. Okay, and then this is going to be the male that we're going to pair her with. So I'm going to collect some data first, and then we'll actually put them together.
The data Sydney is collecting here will be very beneficial to understanding more about indigo snake breeding. Sydney takes the atmospheric temperature and the temperature of the substrate. The weights and lengths of both snakes are recorded prior to pairing as well. The next hours will be spent monitoring these snakes. Indigo snakes are highly ophiophagous, meaning snake eating. We have to be on our toes in case this much larger male decides love is on the menu rather than in the air.
That is the male snake hissing as he's being taken out of that simulated gopher tortoise burrow. So this is just such an amazing moment to witness and to be a part of. It's purely probably one of the greatest moments of my life, just being out here right now with my best friends and just experiencing this.
Alrighty, so if you want to set her down just in front of him, kind of show him that she's bigger than a meal.
Okay.
And then just place her down.
Should I stretch her out a little bit? Like,
she should be okay, but just kind of make sure you can see her whole body in front of his face.
What an honor. Getting to pair 2 Eastern Indigo snakes. It's an anxious moment for me, but I can't imagine how anxious for her. That's a big male. This enclosure is very similar to the winter breeding grounds these snakes might inhabit in the wild. The presence of gopher tortoise dens and them being used as refuge allows for the meeting of males and females in nature.
Alrighty, so a quick little update of what we got going on in here. No pairing just yet. They seem to be a little bit distant from each other. You got the female right here. She's just laid out. Seems like she's soaking up the sun and enjoying it. And if you can see around that potter right there, male's kind of just tucked himself back there. Once again, as Sydney said before, they don't really like people present, so we've likely made them probably a little bit shy, so we're gonna let them go on and do the rest of their thing, and hopefully we can see a successful pairing in them. Awesome.
Now let's get to know Sydney Sang.
Hello, Sydney. How are we doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
All right. So I just kind of want to know a little bit about you and just how you kind of got started with your career with animals and working with animals.
Yeah, for sure. So, kind of a funny story. When I was about 4 years old, I found a baby bunny in my backyard, and I picked it up and I brought it into the house and scared the crap out of my dad with it, and it was such a crazy experience. I was just in love with animals after that moment, and ever since then I've just wanted to work with animals for the rest of my life. Finally, I ended up taking an internship at Cheyenne Mountain Zoo in Colorado in their reptile and Australia department. And I did a summer internship there and completely fell in love. I ended up at the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, interning there for another 9 months. And there I worked with my first indigo snake. Her name was Bindi. And I loved her so much, I wanted to find out more about her. And I actually found out she came from here, from the OCIC.
Okay.
So when a position opened up here, I applied and got in, and I've been here ever since.
Just tell me a little bit about your actual position and what you do here at the OCIC.
Sure. So it's a kind of an interesting position. So I started off, I was hired on as a reptile and amphibian specialist. I did that up until I want to say October of last year. And then I was promoted to the registrar and social media coordinator. So I still do animal care here. And then I do a lot of computer work, like the social media, and a lot of record keeping as well now.
What would you say is the most important thing to you just about the organization OCIC?
I think the biggest thing, and obviously I'm a little bit biased because I do a lot of education, but I think the biggest thing is telling people about the indigos and letting them know, like, this gorgeous, amazing, important species, we're losing it. We lose a lot of indigos in the wild just from people killing snakes on site. And there's nothing we can do about that, because even though it's illegal to do so, if people don't know any better, it's not going to stop. So I think the education is probably one of the biggest things we do. Although, like, obviously our captive breeding and releasing the snakes to the wild is just as important. Yeah, I feel special about the education part.
Now let's meet Nick Clark, the OCIC's reptile specialist. He's been at the OCIC for 6 years now, and he's been working with all sorts of reptiles for many more. Nick serves a very important role at the OCIC. He's a part of the day-to-day maintenance of the facility, as well as the caretaking of all the snakes.
How did you get started in your life just working with animals?
Well, it's something that I've always had an interest in, is snakes in particular.
What's your position at the OCIC?
I am the supervisor out here, jack of all trades, master of none.
Okay, gotcha.
We do actually take care of the entire property, which includes mowing, repairing, painting, animal care, and also doing some of the research and documentation.
In your opinion, what's the importance of the OCIC? I know that's
Well, I mean, the indigo is an apex predator, and it's very significant in the environment, if for no other reason, because it will take care of animals that there may be large populations. I mean, say during the rainy season, we have a lot of frogs. That'll probably end up being their main diet, and then once that kind of goes away, then they may move to the ephemeral pools, you know, where they have trapped fish or trapped tadpoles, and then that's what they'll eat. Once that kind of goes away, then they may go to birds and eggs, but their main diet's going to be other snakes. But the good thing about them, as far as the environment concerned, is that they'll take care of overpopulations of whatever's out there.
Awesome. A little bit of a fun question. What's the best part about your job here?
Well, I mean, I think you've seen the property. It's nice to be out here in nature, being able to work for nature.
Awesome. Nice meeting you, Nick.
It's good meeting you too. Thanks.
Now that you've met Nick, let's meet the baby Eastern Indigo Snakes the OCIC caretakes for reintroduction to the wild. One of the most unique features of the OCIC is that they are raising their baby Eastern Indigo Snakes to be released into wilderness areas where they've been extirpated. Baby Eastern Indigo Snakes are closely cared for and monitored as to make sure they're in the best conditions possible to fend for themselves when released.
Set up in, like I said, we have 38 individuals. We do keep track of them on cards. Most snakes will eat once a week, once every couple of weeks, maybe even once a month, depending on what species. We do actually work each one of these animals with a different set of gloves, just like we do in the other areas. So, and I'll get this guy out up here.
Wow. And so, yeah, these are all the hatchlings from this past year?
Yep.
Wow. incredible. They seem to look big. Like, are they pretty big?
They actually, with the sending that I did this year, this one, for example, from the last time that it was weighed, has increased fourfold. And that's since August.
Since August?
Yep. And most snakes, colubrids in particular, will either constrict their prey or, in some other way subdue it. These guys will bite it and start chewing. They'll also use their body to manhandle it, to basically press against it to force the air out of it. And you see a lot of tongue flicking going on right there. You look in this animal's eyes and not only are they home, but they're building on. I think that their behavior is a lot more elapid or cobra-like than it is colubrid-like because they are active foragers. We'll mark when we feed it, then on the backside we'll mark sheds. We do offer a variety of different food.
I was gonna ask.
Quail chicks, fish, mice. We've also started adding frog legs.
Eating good.
They have a more varied diet than I have, actually. We try to get as many different vitamins and nutrients to them, but we also want them, when they are released, to recognize different animals as food. We did get pictures from one of our students that was tracking one of the indigos that had been released, and like 2 weeks after release, she sent us a video of it eating a copperhead. It had never seen a copperhead before in its life.
What an incredible breeding program the OCIC is running, and such an amazing service to preserving the emperor of the Longleaf Pine Savannah. Now, it wouldn't be a Caveman Wildlife Crew documentary without some educational outreach. The OCIC holds educational tours for the public to raise awareness for indigo snakes and general reptile conservation. The Friends of the Wekiva River were today's guests, and Nick allowed us to participate in educating them about Eastern indigo snakes.
Getting to do some hands-on, some fly on the lens. Getting to do some actual real educational work today, so I'm really excited about it. Let's get into it, guys.
Such an amazing time getting to connect with amazing people about the beauty of Eastern indigo snakes.
Like Sydney mentioned before, there's a real value in educating people about the importance of snakes and other reptiles.
We couldn't be more thankful to the OCIC for allowing us to come visit and experience these snakes, and even more so for the amazing work they do to conserve the Eastern indigo snake.
Wow, we just finished up with the Central Florida Zoo and Botanical Gardens Orianne Center for Indigo Snake Conservation. What amazing people we just met working on a very important mission of saving the Eastern indigo snake, striped newt, and helping a plethora of other species that inhabit the Savannah longleaf pine habitat. I cannot be so more grateful to these amazing people and to this amazing organization for the opportunity that have allowed the Caveman Wildlife Crew to do. Wow, amazing.
Hey, come on, Christian. Got somewhere to be.
Hey, you heard Bobby. We got somewhere to be. Let's do it, man. We were now on our way down to the Orianne Indigo Snake Preserve, or OISP for short, to meet with the Orianne Society. After seeing indigo snakes in captivity, it was time to try to get our hands on one in the wild. The Orianne Society is an incredible organization with the aim of conserving imperiled reptile and amphibian species. The Orianne Society started with a young girl's request to her father to save the Eastern indigo snake. Her father, Dr. Thomas Kaplan, reached out to Dr. Chris Jenkins, and they formed what would later be called the Orianne Society.
After a long night of traveling, the sun rose on the beautiful OISP. The Orianne Indigo Snake Preserve is a 2,530-acre maintained longleaf pine ecosystem in South Georgia. This land is actively maintained by the Orianne Society and serves as a safe haven for the Eastern indigo snake.
All right, guys, beautiful morning on the Orianne Indigo Snake Preserve. Rylan and I made it in last night, and what a beautiful tract of land. We're smack dab in the middle of some beautiful Savannah longleaf pine. The Orianne Indigo Snake Preserve is about 48,000 acres of pretty undisturbed habitat, and it's absolutely incredible the biodiversity that it holds. We just woke up here at the bunkhouse, which is a pretty cool little setup they got here for a lot of the workers that they have doing extended stays. Tons of field biologists will stay here when they're out here surveying this beautiful land, doing indigo snake surveys, gopher tortoise surveys, and just monitoring the general populations of the biodiversity here. So, it's a beautiful looking morning, and I'm high hopes today that we're gonna get the chance to come across some beautiful indigo snakes in the wild with Ben Steginga. Woo, let's get it. Out of batteries. You know, just signing some basic waiver papers, in case I get eaten.
Ben Steginga is a research assistant at the Orianne Society and conducts many of the indigo snake surveys. We were privileged to have the opportunity to shadow Ben and to receive some of his knowledge on Eastern indigos.
My name is Ben Steginga, and I am the Inventory and Monitoring Coordinator here at the Orianne Society. I've been here for about 6 years, started out as a technician, and now I'm running most of our field operations in regards to imperiled reptile and amphibians here in the coastal plain. I do some other outreach and educational programs. I do data management and kind of assist with some of the more scientific aspects. We're in the field, monitoring animals, surveying for rare species.
I was gonna say, it's because you have a wealth of information on these snakes. You've learned them pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, I've spent a lot of time with them. I had some fantastic mentors. Dirk Stevenson's one of the foremost people on Eastern Indigo Snakes. He taught me most of what I know. And so, I've just been really fortunate to have fantastic scientists to get me to where I am today.
I know this document in particular interests the indigo snake. What's been your experience with them working with the Orianne? How long have you been working with the snake? What have you learned about him?
I've been here for 6 years, so it's 6 indigo snake seasons, and each season's about 4 to 5 months. So in total, I've been working almost 2 years worth of indigo surveys. And it's just, I couldn't ask for anything better. It's just a fantastic species. I feel so lucky to be able to interact with these animals. We're keeping tabs on the known populations. That's part of the recovery plan.
What's the importance of the indigo snake to the Savannah longleaf, and what's the importance of the Savannah longleaf to you?
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of the most biodiverse regions in North America, and even in the world. Just a really special ecosystem that got pushed to the brink. The indigo snake is a top predator in this system. You have to have a functional ecosystem in order to sustain top predators. By conserving indigo snakes, we're also, conserving hundreds and hundreds of other species. I want people to think of the southeastern, the longleaf savannas, and think of indigo snakes, because it's really something special that, can't be found anywhere else.
Woo! Alrighty, Ben, tell us what's going on, where we are, and what we're about to go do.
Yeah, so we're out on the Orianne Indigo Snake Preserve. The temperatures have just gotten a little over 50. I think it's about 55 and sunny. So good indigo snake weather. And so we're just going to conduct a survey out here looking for indigo snakes and eastern diamondback rattlesnakes. And hopefully find a few individuals, and we'll take data on them. We'll test them for fungal disease. We'll take measurements and all that sort of stuff. Just an effort to monitor the population that we have here on the property, make sure it's going good, and try to keep tabs on the animals.
Awesome. So a good bit of what we understand about Eastern indigos, I'm guessing, is done on these surveys?
Yeah, so this is the bulk of what we do with indigo snakes in the winter. We survey upwards of 60 sites across the state. It's just kind of keeping tabs, trying to make sure that they're still existing on these sites, try to get some idea of population dynamics. And just, trying to find them where we think they might be and haven't been documented yet.
Ooh, awesome. So, all right, be honest. What are your feelings about today? You think we got a chance of seeing some?
It feels good. I'm very hesitant to ever guarantee anything when it comes to reptiles, but I think the weather conditions are looking really nice, so I'm optimistic.
All right, all I need to hear. Let's do it.
Let's go.
It wouldn't be an indigo snake survey without Dr. Chris Jenkins and Tracy Karplus. Dr. Chris Jenkins is the CEO of the Orianne Society and a scientist with great knowledge of snake ecology. he has served a crucial role in the conservation and study of many species. Tracy is the director of communications at the Orianne Society. She made this whole collaboration possible and took some amazing photographs in the field. You've got some competition, Ryland.
My name's Chris Jenkins, and I am the Chief Executive Officer of the Orianne Society, and I founded it back in 2008, almost 14 years ago now. I've always been a snake ecologist and dedicated my career to snake conservation. I was developing a global snake program, and one of the trustees that was going to be the individual that helped us with the snake program, his daughter, whose name was Orianne, was inspired by an Eastern Indigo Snake down here in the Southeast, and asked her father if he would basically create something to save that species. And so we created the Orianne Society in her name.
I understand that the Orianne Society does a lot of work with indigo snake conservation, in particular in preserving the Savannah longleaf pine habitat.
We put as much time and energy and resources into conserving the trees and the grasses and the tortoises as we do, for the snake, because they all, kind of work together and need to be functioning as one to ensure that the snake's here for the long term. We've been working in partnership with a number of different groups and different aspects of indigo conservation. The Eastern Indigo Snake has been extinct in about a third of its historic range.
Wow.
And there's a big, broad group of partners that have come together, Orianne Society being one of them, to try to reestablish their populations in that part of the range. And so as part of that, Orianne Society built a captive breeding facility for indigo snakes in Florida, and we run that in partnership with Central Florida Zoo, and we breed indigo snakes there, and then the offspring get put into the wild, trying to establish populations in that third of the range where they're gone. It's an amazing facility and great group of people running it. So.
For sure. What are some of the other conservation initiatives that the Orianne's doing?
We also work in other parts of the country. We have a program up in the Northeast working to conserve freshwater turtles.
Wow.
Species such as bog turtles and Blanding's turtles, spotted turtles, wood turtles. And we've worked on a variety of projects throughout North America, over into Africa and Latin America. So really, we're truly a global organization these days.
What's something that you think people really need to know about the importance of conserving the Savannah longleaf and indigo snakes? Why does it matter?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's one of the most important ecosystems in North America, in that it is so incredibly diverse. We were down to less than 2% of the longleaf pine ecosystem, and there are a lot of groups like the Orianne Society working to restore it. So it's critically important from a biodiversity perspective. There's a real need because it's almost gone, and there's just so many important endangered species like indigo snakes, gopher tortoises, red cockaded woodpeckers. So there's a lot of work to do, and it's really important.
Goodness, well, thank goodness the Orianne Society's around and the amazing people working in it. Goodness. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Dr. Jenkins, so nice meeting you.
Good to meet you.
And thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Now that you've met everyone, let's get after trying to find an Eastern Indigo Snake in the field.
Tracking Eastern Indigo Snakes in the wild is an experience that's unlike any other we've had before. It's the middle of January and we're out here looking for snakes?
So you just take a mirror and shine, get the sunlight shine down inside the burrow. Now when we do this, we're looking for diamondbacks, but we're also looking for any sign of a snake coming or going out of the burrow, and that's usually indicative of indigo activity. If a snake was up, it would probably be somewhere in this grass, pretty close by, within a couple meters. So just keep your eyes open as we get to these burrows in this general area.
And as far as the tracks go, are they pretty distinguishable? Like from just...
They can be. A lot of it depends on the size of the snake and the moisture level in the sand. Usually in the burrow, they're pretty distinct. Once they come up here, they can come out the top of the burrow, or maybe this has got grass. The tracks sometimes don't show up at all on the outside of the burrow.
Gotcha.
So you gotta look inside.
Cool.
Yep. So we'll just keep on going. We got plenty more burrows to look at. Let's do it.
Eastern indigo snakes congregate in sandhill areas where the hibernaculum, such as gopher tortoise burrows, are available. The high density of indigos in these areas allows for breeding and the natural encounter of males and females. This makes eastern indigo snakes winter breeders, very unusual for snakes. Getting to walk around the OISP with Ben was an experience that I'll never forget. The wiregrass, sandy soils, and pine trees. It was just like being in a different world. The anticipation of seeing our first wild indigo built with every step and every tortoise den checked.
All right, guys, Christian and I just found our first little solo den. There's nothing in there, no fresh tracks or anything, but we're gonna keep looking, see if we can find anything and hook up with the rest of the group.
Fresh track snake probably came up today.
Okay.
You know, it's not right here in the immediate area, so my guess is, you know, it's moved off a little way. So we're just going to expand our search from the burrow outward.
Okay.
And hopefully catch the snake before it goes down a different burrow or, you know, moves too far away. But yeah, that's clear evidence we had a snake out today.
All right.
And sure enough, right after Ben found fresh tracks, we heard them yell from over the hill. They got an indigo snake.
You got it? Oh, what a beauty. Oh, look at that. Oh, good crap. Hey. Oh my goodness. Look at you. Wow. I didn't even find it and I was high adrenaline. I was like, I was barreling through the woods. Wow. This is our, I guess this actually counts as a lifer, right? Because the ones at the OCIC were captive, so. Yeah.
You count lifers.
Wow. Goodness gracious. This is just an impressive snake.
So this is an adult female, not sure on age, but I would imagine, you know, probably 6 years old, something like that.
An adult, certainly.
It's definitely mature.
Okay.
She is likely
Think
gravid.
she'll be breeding? Yeah.
Yeah, but
Wow.
she's probably gravid.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is what I've really been hoping to get. You just usually don't get them until later in the season.
Yeah,
and so
coiled right in that little piece of brush there.
Really?
There's a hole here as well.
Yeah,
oh,
so
wow.
It's the same system.
Yeah, so
Look at her.
that's exactly what we wanted. And she looks.
Yeah, look at her
got a little bit
chin.
of red on the-
Yeah, goodness. That's my favorite feature about these.
She looks to be in really good shape.
Beautiful. Goodness gracious. You're going to have some babies this year, huh? Lay some eggs. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my gosh. That is insane. Woo.
Yeah, we'll start getting the gear out and start taking some data on her.
Okay.
See if she's new or a snake we've seen here before.
Alrighty, so Ben's running back to the truck to get some equipment to do some really cool measurements and data on this. We're gonna see if this is a female that they've caught before. Oh, she's hissing a little bit. I'm sorry, I'll stop moving. That they've caught before on the preserve, or if not. The Orianne Society is doing some of the most incredible work ever on the Eastern Indigo Snakes. It's so important for this species and the future of its survival in the Savannah longleaf pine. I just can't believe that this is a beautiful wild-caught female. She's just absolutely gorgeous. Look at that incredibly striking red chin. It's just absolutely beautiful. Goodness gracious. So what a lovely little girl. And we're gonna do those measurements and get her back going on our way. Woo, awesome.
Explain what you're doing.
Taking this beautiful female over to get measured.
September is the males are really like in high gear. They're covering a lot of ground, fighting each other. I don't know if they're. I guess if you were to come up on them in combat or in courtship, they may not notice you. But if they're not interacting with another snake, they would be alert and aware. They're just on the ground more, like more technical. They're up on the surface a bit more.
Can I help you measure?
We'll just get a weight with her in the bag. Is it tied yet?
Yep,
It's still
just like
tied. Okay. Yeah, just like that. Stick that there. 1.95 kilograms.
Okay.
And so once we get her out, we'll take a measurement of the bag and subtract that from the total weight. All right, you can go ahead and take her out.
It's like, why am I in a bag? So this is not a gopher tortoise burrow.
Yeah, just keep her, try to keep her as relaxed as possible. Tail supported.
Up, not up the sleeve.
Wow, and how'd you be? This has got to be the most beautiful experience of my entire life. This beautiful female Eastern Indigo Snake is completely blowing my mind.
You know, we monitor disease throughout indigo populations in Georgia.
Okay.
And basically what we're doing is we're swabbing the majority of the center of the body of the snake.
Okay.
And run that for the fungal pathogen, Ophidiomyces opiaticola. Both sides, the dorsal surface and the ventral. It's covering most of the body. And this is, if this snake does have that fungal pathogen on it, and this will, if we had more severe, like we had any severe lesions on this snake, we'd take additional swabs. But as far as I can tell, she is in really good shape. Go ahead and check, see if she has been previously marked.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take the tail. Right there. It would appear she is a new capture.
Wow.
She's unmarked.
Nice.
So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So from here, we're gonna take some length measurements. Once I get her in place, then I'll let go of her head and like slowly, you know, kind of work down.
Okay.
I found that if you release the front part of the snake, they tend to chill out a little bit more while we're looking at the rest of it.
Okay.
So yeah, the back end of that ventral
right there.
anal plate, yeah, the very back end of it.
All right, very back end. Looks like it's right at about 150.3.
Go ahead and just go to the end of the tail.
Okay.
She's being really good.
And then that lands all the way at, what's that like? 178.4.
Okay. 78.4. Yeah, so I mean, she's approaching 6 feet. Like this is a pretty good sized female.
You think she would have already been paired up this season?
Yeah, she would have already bred if she did. And actually, if you look at her body here, I think there's a sign that she has bred. So right here, that looks like a bite mark.
Oh, wow.
Male indigos are often bite females as well during courtship. And that is almost a perfect upper jaw U-shape. You can see where, you can even see the inner row of teeth. They got 4 rows on the top. So that was actually where she has been bit during courtship. It's healing up really well. Yeah, so almost without a doubt, I'm sure she's gonna lay a clutch of eggs this year.
Nice.
It's just like a little microchip that you would put in a pet dog or cat. And there's a scanner. You just put it over this part of the body, and we have her unique ID number. So we'll be able to keep track of her if we ever see her again.
And how incredibly lucky was that Dr. Jenkins got not only a female that I've heard that they don't get very often on this part of the preserve, but a new one too. So this one's gonna aid in all the conservation efforts and research that they're doing. Oh my goodness.
And hopefully produce some more indigo snakes for us this spring.
All right. Awesome. All right, so here we are releasing this beautiful young female that Dr. Jenkins caught. We just got her measured up, tagged up, swabbed her for SFD. So she's gonna be a very, very crucial instrument in the conservation work that's gonna go on here. It's just absolutely incredible to see our first ever wild caught indigo, let alone a beautiful young female. We only really got to see some of the nice looking males up down at the OCIC. So how's this for a spectacular looking girl? Now, we're just gonna let her on go and see where she wants to slide off to, if she's gonna duck straight back into that burrow. But goodness gracious, what a beautiful animal. It's not hard to see why this is one of the most incredible snakes in the whole entire continent. Goodness gracious, awesome. Woo.
A second day rose on the OISP, and the weather today was much colder.
All right guys, back out here at the OISP. It's a pretty chilly day. Ben said he's not too hopeful that we'll find snakes up on the top, but we did see some pretty active burrows, as you guys saw yesterday. There were some pretty cool slides that indicate that snakes are probably down in there hunkering down. They're pretty in tune with the environment. They know it's getting cold. It's about to be the coldest days coming ahead. Ben was telling us that this place has had a good bit this season. So hopefully we're gonna stick a camera down the hole and you're gonna be able to see some indigos in the burrows. And who knows, you never know, we might see one up top. Let's do it.
Yeah, so pretty simple setup. We've got a monitor here, and then this cable plugs into the pelican case.
Okay.
that. And then you've got a camera here on the end with a couple LEDs. And so we just kind of unwind this. And we'll just feed this whole thing down the burrow.
Ben and Kevin setting up this burrow cam was an interesting process for sure. This camera was going to allow us to take a sneak peek into the world of what's going on underground in gopher tortoise burrows. Isn't that incredible? But first, let's meet Kevin Hutchinson, a research assistant at the Orianne Indigo Snake Preserve.
My name is Kevin Hutchinson, and I am a research technician. I work with indigo snakes. I'm an indigo snake technician for the remainder of the season down here this year. We're basically doing occupancy surveys and a little bit of disease work as well. We go to a sandhill site where we know there's indigos. We have gopher tortoise burrows marked on a GPS, and we basically go from burrow to burrow on days that have good conditions, nice sunny days. And these snakes are usually out basking, and we usually catch the snake, process the snake, measure, take swabs, take genetics, stuff like that, and release them back down into their burrow.
What's been some of the most fascinating things you've noticed about indigo snakes in your time working with them?
I feel like there are some species that are overhyped and there are some species that are underhyped. And for a while I was thinking, like, are indigos overhyped, or are they or do they really live up to that? And I think I've decided working here that they definitely do live up to that. Like, the snakes are impressive animals. They have their own personality, and they're just really, really cool to work with.
Last question, what's a takeaway you could give to somebody who doesn't really know what the Savannah longleaf is or an indigo snake? Why is it important? Why should they care?
It's a savanna ecosystem. It's not a forest. And so the savanna ecosystem, when you think about like the Serengeti, yeah, you have the occasional tree, but a lot of it comes down to the ground cover. And the Savannah longleaf has the most diverse ground cover of any other ecosystem in North America.
Wow.
And so that's really what ties it together for me, is that's what the gopher tortoises need. And you have gopher tortoises, then you get indigo snakes, you get all these other species because they're such a keystone species. So that's really the big takeaway for me.
Nice, awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin, for your time, and thank you so much for having us, man.
Of course, thank you.
The burrow camera was allowing us to see deeper into the dark world that gopher tortoises create for all sorts of wildlife. As the camera went down deeper, we saw more spiders and crickets, and I think that's it right there. The Eastern Indigo Snake, safe from the predators and the cold temperatures above, right in a gopher tortoise burrow.
This wouldn't be a proper documentary about the Longleaf Pine Savannah without mentioning the role fire plays. Longleaf pine savannas are regulated by fires, and they are actually needed to have healthy longleaf pine savannas. Fire scorches the landscape and allows for seed dispersal, old wood clearing, and clearance of nutrient-less soil. In nature, this would happen frequently enough to keep a longleaf savanna healthy. The Orianne Society has a very organized and strategic prescribed burn team that performs fires needed to preserve an ideal habitat. Let's meet the Orianne Society's Director of Fire Ecology and Management, Caleb Goldsmith.
I'm the Director of Fire Ecology and Management here. Write the burn plans and do all the management for ground cover restoration and all the fire ecology, working with TNC and private landowners and Georgia DNR, so on our preserve, and then helping out all of our partners as well.
What's the average burn time per year?
We typically go from January to about mid-June. From about January to March, we'll do what I call like maintenance burns or site prep burns, and then in the growing season, from about mid-March or April to June is what we call a growing season burn. Where we can go in and burn some of this wiregrass and try to get some of the hardwood competition out of the field. What we do is burn in the growing season, and down at the shop we have some donor sites. So it's basically just fields of monoculture wiregrass. We can take it out to tracks that had been site prepped earlier, and if it had been burned in like January, we'll go and replant it with wiregrass in about February.
What's the importance of just like keeping this habitat maintained by fire every year?
It needs fire to eliminate competition, and its strategy is hopefully that fire eliminates competition, and while that fire's not there, it can shoot up and beat everyone once it
Cool.
build up those stores.
How long is it going to take before we start to see signs of like regrowth of it naturally occurring?
If this were in the growing season, it'd be like a couple weeks, maybe even a week.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to answer some of these questions, and I appreciate all the work you do.
Yep. Thank you all.
Thank you, man.
All in all, the Orianne Society is doing an incredible job to save the Eastern Indigo Snake and the Longleaf Pine Savannah. Their conservation efforts are saving countless species and making sure we don't lose longleaf savannas or the Eastern Indigo Snake.
Woo! And there you have it, guys. What a trip in the book. The first time the Caveman Wildlife Crew has ever got to work with a conservation initiative, and let alone the Orianne Society and the Central Florida Zoo and Botanical Gardens Orianne Center for Indigo Conservation. We've gotten to see one of the rarest snakes in the United States and one of the species that I've been dreaming to see since I was a kid. Special thanks to everyone who made this trip possible. Just thank you so much for your efforts in helping this crew to come down and document such an important species, but also such an important ecosystem. I hope after this documentary, you guys see the value in protecting our ecosystem, being the Savannah longleaf pine and the indigo snake and every single other species that's there. If you want to support the Orianne Society and the Orianne Center for Indigo Conservation at the Central Florida Zoo, we'll leave the links below on how you can donate and help protect this wildlife and wilderness habitat and the species that we don't want to lose. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next adventure. Let's get them.